Dear students, from the 8th grade, as you know, you're using this book, which are going to be our guide for the exercises I'm going to give you for this presentation. This presentation is about, let's learn about fractions. Fractions are nice, good tool for us to use all calculations in the future. If you know how to use fractions, it will be very useful to you in the future. It's important to show you what fractions are. You will begin with whole parts of something. In this case, a pizza, another pie, and a donut. They're completely full, and they are not part or fractions. As we can see, fractions begin to be being divided in many parts. As you can see, we have these divisions that show us how the fractions are. The fractions are usually expressed in the form of a number. The number which on top and a number which at the bottom. The number at the bottom is called denominator, which shows the number of parts in which it's been divided. And the upper number is called numerator, which shows a number which is going to be giving us the idea of how many pieces have been taken from the whole division. As an example, we can see this pizza. It's a complete pizza. Now this pizza has been divided in these many parts. And we're going to see how many do we have. We have 8 slices of pizza, which have been divided. And as you can see in the yellow part, 1 slice has been taken. Actually, we can show how a fraction is represented by a numerator, an upper number, and a denominator in the lower number. Here we have an example of how you can take 2 slices of pizza from the 8 ones, and it's represented by this fraction. Now again, we have another example of a division of a pizza or a pie. Basically, it's a pie in which we have divided this pie in, let's see how many, 6 pieces, of which 1, 2, 3, and 4 have been taken. As you can see, the fraction is 4 divided by 6, which shows a division of a number. Now we have a donut, nice little donut. I would like to eat it, and it's been divided in 2 pieces. As we can see, the fraction is divided in 2 pieces. Here we're going to see in the denominator, and 1 slice being taken, and then we have a full fraction here as a half. There you go. So that's the representation of what a fraction is about. Okay, as we can see, a fraction is a mathematical representation of a number in which a line is being divided to define in how many parts we have divided a part of a whole, and how many parts have been divided into it. As we can see in this example, we have divided in equal 8 parts this rectangle in which the number at the bottom is showing the number of parts has been divided. And the number 3 is showing the number of pieces that have been taken in the upper number. So the numerator is giving you the number of pieces that have been taken, and 8 is telling you the number of divisions that we have done in the rectangle. One of the most important parts of fractions is that we have to divide in the 3 equal parts. No matter how large the number is here at the bottom, this part should be divided in equal sizes. That way we can take the numbers of the red rectangles or squares that we have taken from the 3 original ones. In another example, we can see that the shapes can be different. It could be also circles figure in which we have 12 equal pieces which have been divided this pie, and 7 of them have been shaded in green. This is showing us a fraction of 7/12. One important thing is that we have to remember that the lower number, which is called the denominator, has to finish with the ending of th, like 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 4th, and so on. Well, not only circles, but also different geometrical figures, like an hexagon, in which, as you can see, the hexagon has been divided into 6 parts, of which 5 of them have been shaded in 5. So the fraction shown here is 5/6 of a number. Well, it's important to note that not only geometrical figures are useful to describe fractions. Fractions are used all over our life, all over the objects we have surrounded. In this figure, we can see pets. We have 7 pets, 4 dogs, 2 cats, and a little bear, in which we can say that if the total of pets is 7, 4 of them are dogs, 1 is a little bear, and 2 are little cats. So the fractions will be 4/7, 1/7, and 2/7 cats. Okay, fractions are very useful to compare, since the fractions shown here give us the number of divisions which are exactly the same size. But we can compare the number of shaded parts which have been taken, which help us to know how many pieces are the total of the fractions that we have. Here we have 2 different types of fractions that have been divided in different parts. We have 3/4, we have 4/5. Now, the idea is to compare to see which one is bigger and which one is smaller. As you can see in the figure, we can see that 4/5 becomes bigger than 3/4. As we can see graphically, it helps us to find out. In these fractions, we can see and compare equivalence of fractions. Even though 1/2 is different than 2/4, we can see that these fractions are equivalent, and we're going to see how they're equivalent by showing the shades that we're going to have. See, the shades are going to be put together, and then we can see that both fractions are equivalent. That means that they have the same shape and the same size. One of the most important applications for fraction is adding fractions. As we can see, we have the possibility of adding fractions which have a common denominator. If the common denominator is the same, like in this case 1/4 and 2/4, we can add them together and we have the answer of 1, 2, and 3 plus, and there we have 3/4 of the fraction. Another example is that we have these 2 fractions which have the common denominator. In the first circle we have 3/8 that should be added to 5/8, and that will be easy to add because we can add 3 plus 5/8, and then we have a total number of 8/8, which is basically one whole number, which is equal to 1. Here, as a general rule, we have the pattern in which if the bottom number called denominator is a common one, we only need to copy the denominator and only add the numerators, and then we will have done all the complete addition. If we know the procedure, it doesn't matter the number in which the bottom number is going to be written. As you can see, 100 could be 1,000 also. It should be repeated here in the question mark. And then the only thing we have to add will be 15 plus 10, which is going to be 25. So that's the sum of the whole fraction, 25 over 100. That way we can add fractions very easily. Well, we can see here the four types of fractions: the zero fraction, the proper fraction, the whole fraction, and the improper fractions. Now we're going to explain which ones are which. The zero, the proper, the whole, and the improper fractions. A zero fraction is a fraction in which any number is divided, any number that's divided has an upper number as zero, like an example. Here we have 0 is smaller than the proper number is smaller than a whole number, and whole number is smaller than an improper number. Okay, here we can see the difference between two types of fraction. The zero fraction is a fraction which it doesn't matter what numbers in the denominator, the upper number or numerator is always 0 and it will always be here. It's called a zero fraction, which is basically smaller than any proper fractions that we can see here. We can see a proper fraction. A proper fraction is a fraction which the upper number is smaller than the lower number. And that's basically a number that's going to be between 0 and 1 because it's less than one number. Then we have the whole number, which is basically the same number divided by the same number, which is going to be 1. It's called whole fraction because it represents the number 1. And this number is always bigger than 0 and also bigger than a proper fraction, as we can see here. Okay. Finally, we have the improper fractions. Improper fractions are numbers which numerator is much bigger than the denominator and are going to be located after this part 1 all the way down to the infinite. As we can see here, 5/4 is bigger than 1/2, and that's an improper number. As you can see, the numerator is bigger than the denominator, and that's why it's going to be on the orange zone. And this is showing us how big it is and how the different number it's going to have. So we have zero fraction, proper fraction, a whole fraction, and improper fractions. Now we have to see what a mixed number is. As we can see in the number line, which basically the reference of numbers, it starts from 0 all the way down to the infinite, and we have this square, this rectangle, blue rectangle, which is 1, it's one complete number. But we have two fractions here, 2 and a 4. So we are mixing numbers, a whole number and a fraction. So this is going to be what we call a mixed number. And a mixed number is part of a one whole and part of a fraction. What a whole number is, we can see that any number that's being divided by the same numerator and the same denominator, no matter if it's 2 divided by 2 or 8 divided by 8 or 100 divided by 100, whatever it is, the answer will always be 1. This is called whole number, the whole fraction. When we see our line number, and as long as the fraction is coming up, we see that the numerator has been increased from 4 to 5. And this fraction, even though it was whole at the beginning, a whole fraction, has become an improper fraction. Why is it an improper fraction? Because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. That's going to tell us that the number is an improper fraction. In this diagram, we can explain very easily to show what a whole fraction is. A whole fraction is a number which has been divided by the same number, and the answer is always going to be 1. Next to it, as you can see, the blue box is just 1, which 4 divided by 4. We have 1/4 of a fraction. Since the numerator is smaller than the denominator, this becomes a proper fraction. And if we add 1 plus 1/4, we're going to have 5/4 of a fraction. But this 5/4 of a fraction becomes an improper fraction. And that's why, as you can see in the picture, if we have one whole fraction, which is 1, and added 1/4, we have completed what we call a mixed number. Mixed number is one part as a whole and one part as a fraction. Now we're going to explain how we can change a mixed number into an improper fractions. Here we have 2 1/8. We have 3 4/5. We have 4 2/3. These fractions, which are mixed numbers, can be changed into an improper fractions to the following procedure. If I multiply 2 times 8, I got 16, and if I add 1, I will get 17 as a numerator. Since the denominator is the same, 17/8 is going to be equal to 2 1/8. The same procedure goes for 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 4 gives you 19. 19 divided by 9 is going to be 19/5, which is equal to 3 4/5. The same, we have 4 2/3, and we have to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. What we do is multiply 4 times 3, which gives me 12, and I have to add 2 since we have the common denominator. The numerator will become 14/3. So 14/3 is going to be equal to 4 2/3. So mixed numbers can be easily changed into improper fraction. On the other way around, we can do the same. If we divide 17 divided by 8, we're going to have 2. 2 times 8 is 16, and remainder is 2. So that's what we are going to, remainder is 1, so we're going to have 2 and 1/8, and so on. Well, mixed numbers can be added and also can be subtracted. This is a way we can show how we can add mixed numbers. The main part is to put in a stack form. A stack form means that we have to put a column of whole numbers and fractions and add them independently. For instance, the whole parts are 2 plus 4 equals 6. Since the common denominators are 5, the only thing we have to do is copy the denominator and add the numerators, which is 1 plus 2 equals 3. So the addition will be 6 3/5. Very easy to do. As you can see, we can summarize the addition operations what we did. We add the column in green, the whole number 6, and we add the fraction, and the answer will be 6 3/5. Now, to complete this presentation, we're going to finish with the subtractions of mixed numbers as follows. To complete the subtractions of mixed numbers, what we can see is a very easy way to show how we can put in a column the whole numbers first and the fractions next to it. We have to be sure that we cannot exchange places. Always the bigger number should be on top and the smaller number at the bottom. So what we do first is subtract fractions. 4 minus 3 equals 1, 1/5. And then I subtract 6 minus 1 equals 5. So I have completed my subtraction in a very organized way. I have to be very careful because I cannot subtract a smaller number from a bigger number. In that case, I should have to borrow a number from the next digit, which will be another example in the next lesson to follow. Dear students, I hope the explanation of this presentation has been useful to you, and I hope that you have all your concerns being completed and learn about fractions. Fractions are very useful in math. Please have them as a good friends for you to help your problems. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Be at home, don't leave out, stay at home, and God bless you.